Welcome to the Pepper Soup Talk Show. One Jollof. We're here at Wharton Africa Business Forum, University City, Philadelphia.
Yes, sir.
And we're kicking off this show. My name is Aki. It's my partner Sekou. And we've got the co-president of WASA
Yes, sir.
with us, and Kwesi.
Yes.
Yeah, so thank you, Kwesi, for being with us, kicking us off.
Mm-hmm.
So, first of all, tell us about when you say you're co-president of WASA. We also organizer for the forum.
No, so I was not an organizer for the forum.
Okay.
But I was helping to oversee that committee,
okay,
helping spread the word across our student body.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then tell us about WASA and sort of the mission of WASA on UPenn's campus.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I would say for us.
Chris, I'm sorry to cut you off. You might have to speak into the phone because it's loud in the background.
Here we go.
So
all right.
This way we're able to hear you.
Okay. So for us, the mission of WASA was really to spread the African culture, the roots of our continent, of our countries that we're all a part of, and really just making sure that our classmates understand where we come from, where our roots are from, and how they can further support us in the future. Right. So at the end of October, we had Africa Week, which was amazing. So from us dressing up in our traditional clothing, to food, to storytellers, and ending with an art party. It was absolutely amazing, and we had a ton of engagement from our student body. And I would say over the years, our club has been growing, and I want to make sure that continues to happen. So even after I'm gone, I want to be an engaged alum and making sure that this club is continuing to grow.
Cool. And Kwesi, I know you say you're from Ghana. Did you grow up there? Or did you grow up in the States?
So I was actually the first in my family born here.
Oh, wow.
So both of my parents were born and raised in Ghana. Came here around the early 20s. My older brother was actually born in London, and I was the first one born here. So born and raised here.
What state?
New Jersey.
Jersey, okay.
Yeah, so grew up in Jersey. Went back to Ghana in 2020. So right before the pandemic really took off. I was there from late February to March. Right before they shut down their borders.
Oh, wow.
So I got to see a lot of family. Looking forward to going back. So we're actually planning a trek to West Africa, so to Ghana and Ivory Coast. So we'll be doing that over New Year's, and it'll be a great time.
Oh, that's powerful, man.
Yeah.
We often hear about the trips to Ghana, especially in these last couple of years, with the push, to repatriate and go back home. I haven't heard as much about Ivory Coast, trips to Ivory Coast. Why specifically did you choose Ivory Coast and this to Ghana?
So I think historically, for our club, and just the hot countries, or just the countries with the biggest representation, has typically been Ghana, Nigeria. So we were kind of looking to branch out from that, but still wanted to kind of have one of those staple countries. So we landed on Ghana, and then one of our members who's on our board as a first year is from Ivory Coast, Abidjan. And he was very adamant about us going. Said it's a beautiful country. So we looked into it. It worked out, and we're going there in January.
Wow.
Yeah.
So again, there's a lot of events going on, and I know we live. Kwesi, we're honored to have you on our talk show.
Appreciate it.
So we might just push you to be a little bit louder so we can project, because we want to make sure our viewers are actually able to hear what you're saying.
Got you.
So Kwesi, so WAPS, it's Wharton African Business Forum has been around for this is the 28th conference, right? So this has been around. This is well known. What do you like the most about this conference?
So I think for me there were a few things. One, I really love the representation from just all around, right? So it's not just a Wharton event. I met students from different business schools who have different goals of wanting to kind of get involved in Africa, wanting to get involved in the continent. I loved a couple of the panel sessions I went to. So today, learning about women in business, in Africa, and honestly, like it was like really enriching to kind of like hear how they still have that struggle, you know, and like for me, it's just kind of like growing up in America, you know, there's like that struggle with race, but then like you think like when you go elsewhere, like that might not be the issue, but they still have a lot to overcome, and I think that we heard from powerful speakers. It was absolutely amazing, and like however I can like plug in and be an ally and be a resource, like I'm here for it.
And Kwesi, what's so powerful about what you said and what resonated with me is that often we think that there's this gap between like the woman movement or the women's struggle in Africa versus like the black woman sort of movement and struggle in America. But often what you find out that there's a connection between that. So that's what really resonated with me, because what you learn is that the women in Africa, like they have the same struggle as the diaspora, the one who live outside of it. So like once you sort of like make that connection, you realize like everybody's fighting the same fight.
Exactly.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course.
Again, like, you know, so this is again the 28th conference. We're happy to have you. Thank you. And your role again, can you explain it to our like viewers? Like, what's your role in African conference?
So for me, like, so I'm the co-president of WASA, that oversees like the committee that runs the conference. So in terms of like actual like planning and running the conference, like I wasn't as hands-on, because like I had to kind of like take care of like other like duties, but there were like weekly meetings, and I was kind of like a part of that, like making sure if the committee needed any resources, anything like that, I was there to help out, reach out to any alum and everything like that.
And where do you see WhatsApp in the next 5 or 10 years?
Oh man, I hope to like really grow, like double its numbers in terms of like the student body on campus. I really want the club to like have its identity really well known to our student body, and what I mean by that is a lot of our members who aren't kind of like in black at Wharton don't know the difference between the African American Club and like the African Student Association. So that's been one of like my biggest pushes to like really kind of like educate our student body on that nuance and like really understand like what's our mission, like what's our goal, like who we are versus the African American body.
Well, I'm so happy you said that, because Aki and I actually like went to Penn. We class of 2013.
Okay.
Right? And then we really like, because like WAPS is sort of like sometimes perceived as this exclusive, like, you know, clubs, right? Only people who actually went to like Ivy Leagues knows about it and stuff. But I also see like people like you who are like leaders of this organization pushing to really like be more inclusive, like, you know, and that's why we're so like happy to be part of this, so we could amplify and like bring in outside to be, because this organization is so amazing and the work that you guys a lot of people need to know. So what steps are you taking to really like bring in folks who are not just like part of the Penn community to know about this amazing organization and its impact?
So I think like one of like the major things is like everyone kind of loves the fact that our community is so large, right? And like when they compare it to like other schools or like other bodies, we're maybe like 3, 4, 5 times as big. So I think a lot of times it's like they're in awe of that, and I'm like, well, it's great, but we can also collaborate and we can kind of like host like joint events. So like maybe like your student body isn't as big, but if we all like come together and really become like one larger body, not only are we growing, but we're also like spreading that knowledge across like multiple schools. So I know like at the end of last semester, we even spoke with some contacts that were over in London, trying to like get in contact with like their student body, and like trying to do mixers and everything like that.
I keep hearing a lot about students' body. What about those people who are not students, who are like, what about the community outside of like the Penn?
That's a good question.
The West Philly community.
That's a good question. So I know like we are trying to do a lot of outreach just like within the community. And I think that like one like kind of like positive thing that we did was so through Africa Week and like at the end of it, like we kind of like had our party at the African American Museum, which is like in Philly. And there's just like a lot of history, like a lot of like culture there. And I think that one thing that's like really important is that I think our student body doesn't really understand or like know a lot of like the history and the culture, but then like also like really just trying to kind of like tap into like that network in like Philly, right? So there's a lot of underserved people here. There's a lot of mentoring and like a lot of like mentorship that needs to go around. So I think like that's one thing that like our club and also like our school is like really just trying to like plug into and making sure if it is like a school initiative that like our members are also being a part of that push and like that drive.
And then I just want to like applaud you for making that push, because you live in West Philly. West Philly has it's like its own ecosystem, but it's actually one of the most diverse and most like cultural like part of Philadelphia. Like there's just so much culture to Philly. So thank you for pushing that.
Absolutely.
And I'm excited for you guys to like really bring in a lot of people that's gonna add more value to this conference. We know that you have a lot going on today. Last word of advice for our viewers, based on everything that you know and based on everything you learned.
Honestly, this conference has been amazing. I'm glad I've been able to be a part of it. I want to be a part of it for years to come. And who knows, maybe one day I'll be a keynote speaker here. But honestly, it's very enriching. It's very educational. And I hope that in years to come, we'll all be able to kind of like move past the virtual like component. And there were a lot of guest speakers here that I wish I could have met in person. But honestly, an amazing event, very enriching, and I'm looking forward to the years to come.
And what are you looking to do after you graduate from Wharton?
So I was prior to Wharton, I was in investment management. I'm actually going to be pivoting into tech. So I'll be going to Facebook or now Meta, whatever you want to call it.
How do you feel about the whole change to Facebook? Change to Meta.
It makes sense, I guess. It's kind of like an alphabet Google thing. Right. It makes sense. But I mean, honestly, like the summer I had was very enriching. And I think that one thing that I learned is that they're also trying to make a big push in like being more diverse, like understanding how their workers and like their employees can kind of like reach out to others. So now I'm like using my platform and like understanding like what I'm learning through WASA, like in class, to understand like how can I plug myself into this company that has a lot of resources, see what they have going on and see how I can add to that. So I think like one thing that's been very enriching for me just coming to Wharton is like, not just wanting to pivot and get a better job, but like really understanding what's important to me and then like how can I kind of like grow my people like across the world.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful.
Quincy, last question. I know we've been asking you a lot of questions.
That's all good.
All right?
It's all good.
So you're from Ghana, right? I'm from Guinea, and then we have my brother right there from Nigeria. So shout out to representing Niger, right? West Africa. What jollof rice you think is the best jollof rice out there?
Come on, man.
Again, be careful with your answers.
Come on, man.
Know,
Stop. Stop.
We are known as one jollof, right?
Yes.
So we are trying to make peace here and bring everybody together. But again, I have to throw this question at you. Which country, Nigeria, Ghana, or Liberia? Guinea's neutral. But which country you think has the best jollof rice?
Oh, man. I mean, all right. Can I not vote for my own country? Can we do that? Or
it's a free world.
Because I can't not say Ghana. I can't not do that.
So let's move.
I can't not do that.
Wow.
Like, I mean,
honestly, this is actually the first Ghanaian that I know. Be careful now. But again, I understand that you were born here, so you could stay here. That's okay. But you're the first one that I heard from Ghana that chose to not vote for Ghana. That's interesting.
I mean, like, I'm just trying to kind of like throw it out there, be, thinking outside the box here. Now, again, I would always vote for my home country. Like, that's what I grew up on, right? Like, I'm never going to say.
So which country? Is it Nigeria got the best jollof rice, or Liberia got the best jollof rice, or Senegal got the best jollof? Which country you going to vote for if you can't vote for Ghana?
All right,
pick,
all right. If I can't pick, I'm honestly going to say Senegal.
Senegal.
Yes.
All right, Senegal, congratulations.
Yes.
All right, according to Kwesi, you
That's a safe answer. Smart choice.
Hey, man, that's a good deal, because Senegal is actually the originator of jollof rice. So that's something people want to know. We appreciate you, brother, for coming on our talk show, man. Thank you for all you do to push our vision of African excellence.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Good.
Have a good rest of your night.
Take care.
Enjoy your night.
Thank you.
All right.
So we're live on Pepper Soup Talk.
Yep, go ahead.
Pepper Soup Talk. I love that name.
Pepper Soup Talk, right?
I love that name.
Well,
yeah.
why you love the name? Let's start with that.
Because I love pepper soup, and pepper soup is spicy and flavorful and everything. So like, it's a name that evokes spiciness, flavor, deliciousness, all of that. Yeah, it's a good name.
So Sandra, where are you from?
I am from Nigeria.
You're from Nigeria. Okay. So I was gonna guess Ghana.
It's funny because I didn't tell you my last name, and I get that a lot because my last name is Wosu, and I think
which is a Ghanaian last name.
It's not a Ghanaian last name because it's NWOSU. However, the Ghanaian last name is Owusu, I think is what it is. So it sounds familiar, it sounds similar.
Yep.
Right.
So have you enjoyed the Wharton Forum so far this weekend, and what's been your favorite part?
So I've enjoyed it, and I'm so proud of the team. I mean, Kwesi that went before me, both of us run the Wharton Africa Student Association as co-presidents, and so at the beginning of the year, I think there was a lot of uncertainty, with if things were going to happen in person, if conferences were going to take place, and all of that. So having done this weekend and been here and seeing everything happen live, all the panels being successful, everything going very smoothly, all the fun people are having, people coming from like California, like place. I had somebody come from Nigeria today. I'm like, wow, good for us. Like I'm so proud of the team. Shout out to Tiffany, to Itunu, to Ayo, like doing such a great job. Yeah. And so I think you said what was my favorite part.
Were there any particular panels or I know there was a social yesterday night.
I mean, social is always good, but I'm going to be biased and say that my favorite part has been I got the opportunity to moderate one of the panels today, the Women in Leadership one, and I mean, standing in front of people and interacting with these very accomplished women that span industries, from politics to business to finance, to law. Like it was just nice, kind of talking to them, getting their perspective on like some of the pressing issues that all of us like think about and deal with on a day-to-day basis, like in work life and also personal life. So that was really the highlight for me, definitely. Yeah.
So just to build on to that question, like based on everything you learned, again, you were part of a conference where you're able to give an opportunity to powerful women who are really changing the narrative about women's role in African economy.
Right.
So what advice do you have for just young women out there based on your takeaway from the conference today?
I think something.
Also, like in addition to your personal experience.
Right. I mean, from the conference today, I mean, like I said, the women were just giving out gems the whole time. I think one thing that really resonated with me was this. Like, I think I'd asked the question about how many times, in their career that they've been, that they face challenges and people telling them that they can and all of that, right? I think one of the very famous panelists on there was like, okay, you need to dare to dream and like dare to succeed. Like, don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. And I think that's something that a lot of us, I mean, as a woman, like I had the privilege and great opportunity in my head of growing up in a family that was very matriarchal, right? It wasn't very patriarchal. I grew up with like grandmothers and grand aunts and like aunties and my mom, and everybody was so, and my dad was there, but I just had all those strong women around me. So I never really, I I think growing up, I never really thought that I couldn't, and I was never really told that I couldn't. I think I only was ever pushed, right? And like, I mean, my mom has started the journey of progress in, you know, my lineage, and but it wasn't until I, you know, got out of the house and like started dealing with society that I realized that there were all these biases, right? Saying you can't, you know, you're a girl, maybe like hearing things like, oh, you're too aggressive, you're too much, you're too forward, and you know, all those things that like the same behaviors you see in guys, and like women, once women display a little bit of confidence, you know, it's like too much. Stop.
Thank you for that vulnerability. That was very powerful, right?
So
go ahead.
My question is was two questions. Number one, I'm trying to figure out where you grew up. Like I hear a UK accent. I'm wondering, you grew up in the UK.
Oh, don't put my accent on blast. Shit. No. Sorry for that bad language, but.
And then the second thing too is you talk about how you grew up in a matriarchal household,
right?
And typically, I mean, I'm Nigerian. I came from a Nigerian household.
Okay.
I know a lot. Of course, I know a lot of Nigerians, and we typically tend to see like a lot of Nigerian houses as patriarchal.
Right.
So it sounds like you must have come from like a progressive, like an enlightened family. Like, can you talk a little bit about just like, you know, growing up in your household and like like what that was like?
Right. I grew up in 1990 in the 90s in Lagos. I was born in Lagos actually, but my dad had gone to school in America, like in Alabama, and then moved to Chicago and then New York. So he was in New York and just, you know, hustling. And my mom, you know, had maintained like her job, her institutional job in Nigeria, and like didn't want to move. And so in that situation, because my mom was very busy with work, I think my grandma, my grandaunt, like people that my mom trusted, like had moved in with us, right? To kind of like, to take care of us. So my grandaunt was walking me to school every morning. You know, I had my grandma cooking, training us, as we say in Nigeria. You know, so I had that, but like, so it was kind of situational for me where like you know, I just had women around me, and that was it, you know. And I think, and I'm trying to remember a question because now I think I'm deviating, but I think it was like I see how if my dad was maybe like more physically always in the same household, maybe my views would have been a little more skewed. But I think my dad was also like American in a way, right? And so he wasn't, you know, he had two girls for the longest time. My brother came after, and so I think he was very proud of us. He really wanted us to like be great, and never saw us as like not enough, and you know, and really wanted us to like push for that, right? So I never just, that was never a thing that I had to contend with, especially like in my home front, you know. So and I consider, knowing what I know now, all the exposure that I've had, all the people that I've met, all the stories that I've heard, I realize how unique my situation was, how that experience was.
And that's my next question too. Hearing your experience and like your like you are positioned in a unique position,
right?
And based on your experience, what I'm hearing, like you have this passion for change.
That's right.
Tell us more about that. What do you want to change the world? Like, you know, what's your passion? What is one thing that you want to change about this world?
Oh my gosh, Sekou, I have there's so much change. I feel like I'm an idealist, which is not always good, I know. And I'm trying, I think with the kind of things that come into business school, for example, is like putting some sort of like reality, right? Or realism to, you know, my idealistic views and figuring out practical ways to achieve some of the things that I want to achieve. But dialing it back and taking it back to your question about, you know, what kind of change I want. I mean, a few years ago, I was in New York, like this was like 2017, and I was working, I had a good job, you know, I was like, I just feel like I'm working for, you know, is it Big Ben, Uncle Sam, whatever it is. And I was like, I'm from Nigeria. I'm Nigerian American, but I'm Nigerian first. I was born there. So I just felt like a calling, a duty, responsibility, call it what you may, of moving back to the continent, taking what I had learned so far and like trying to figure out how to apply it to my country, like to my environment, the environment that I grew up in, and that led me to move back. In 2017, I moved back to Lagos. I was with the same company that I was in. I lived there for about 3 years, worked there until I came to Wharton in 2020.
Can we ask what company you're working for?
I was working at PwC, so it was an accounting firm. So I just did like consulting projects all over the place, and I did a lot of work like public sector, manufacturing, financial services, like entertainment, like just like I did a variety of work that just really exposed me to like how Nigeria works. What like things that are working, things that are not, why they're not working, right? And where, you know, and I like, you know, I spent a lot of time in the north, like in one of the states there, and it just let me kind of really understand, because it's very easy to be in the US, being on Twitter, and just like going, right? Hashtag this, hashtag that. And obviously, I mean, we encourage that. That's all part of like the voice. That's all part of like elevating voices. That's all part of like shedding lights on situations that are not supposed to be. However, I think that being on ground, like having that experience, especially like more practical, like professional experience, right? You get to see things from a very different point of view. I worked with people, young Nigerians that, you know, I'll go to work in the morning and maybe I get to work like on days when I'll get in early, like 8. I was not a very like early comer at that point because I was like I didn't want to do traffic. Anyway, I'll get to work and I'll see young people that are on my teams like sleeping in their cars in the parking lot. And that's because they had to wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning and drive to work so they could like
get there
beat traffic.
Wow.
And I'm like, these are people that are, you know, mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, this and that, well accomplished, well read, you know, and they're just like suffering for no reason. Infrastructure is just poor. I mean, there are things that work, obviously, but they're just some like little things that are like, what if only you could like switch this little thing, but then you end up realizing that infrastructure is not just a little thing; it's like a big thing, and you know, there's so many parties that play a role in like making it what it is today, right? Which is not up to par at all. So it just let me see firsthand what the issues are, be practical about what the real solutions are, like how can we actually like achieve progress. And I mean, that's my own one perspective that I was building, but you know, it I think being on ground, not just like Christmas vibes, holiday vibes, right, is always like a good way to kind of like
get some perspective. I have to ask you now, given that, you know, you said you're an idealist, you spend time here, you spend time in Nigeria. We know that Nigeria has a lot of problems. We saw, you know, what happened with the SARS and then even just the economy, like the string of challenges. Of course, also a lot of really great things about Nigeria. That's why I'm very proud of Nigerian. As an idealist and someone with your mind, like, what's the solution to Nigeria's problems?
Oh boy, I don't know what the solution is, if I'm being honest. It's a very, like, I don't think there's one solution. I think there's like different things that different people are already doing such great work. I mean, even today, to bring it back to the conference, like we saw people, you know, like figuring out how to deliver things, logistics, figuring out how to get blood to people in need. Like, you know, there are so many great minds in Nigeria that are doing the most amazing things, and all over Africa, because I also got a chance to, like, you know, travel just personally though around the continent, and it's crazy to me that, like, given all the bad things, you can listen. If you start listing the problems, you're not going to be done. It's going to go on and on and on. You're going to ask for, you know, those people in exams that will ask for extra paper. You keep asking for extra paper, but people are still finding ways to thrive above all of that, in spite of that. You know, so it actually always blows my mind. So I think people are definitely the change that we need. But I think a lot of those things also depend on infrastructure, government, and all of those like macro things. And that's why I think in the past few years we've been calling young people to participate in politics. Vote. Vote. I will say, like, in the last election, I was in Nigeria in 2019. And I did the presidential. I did the presidential, which happens first. I was, you know, in Ikate. I was in line. I, you know, voted. People say, your vote will count, your vote will count. I said, let me at least do the one that is in my power to vote, right? When the next week came, this is bad, but I'm exposing myself and being vulnerable. My mom called me from Abuja and was like, she's been hearing this and this and that. Don't go, you know, she doesn't. And I was stressed. I was scared. I was like, okay. My cousin that I lived with too was like, and he's a guy, and you know, sometimes when you're going to all those unsafe places, you want to have a guy with you. And I put that in quotes for other reasons that we shouldn't get into, but so he wasn't going, so I was like, okay, I can't go because I'm stressed, and we already know who owns Lagos, the big T, right? So like, let's even forget it, So I think participating in politics, having like, all that social, political engagement is very important.
And then,
so I just want to make sure, Steph, I know you like been planning this event. We also want to make sure that we give you time to enjoy
I did not
yourself.
plan. It was just, the club, but the co-chairs planned.
Yeah, we definitely want to make sure you also get a chance to also enjoy. We appreciate you for coming on our talk show. Thank you for dropping like your experience, and we're excited for you. We definitely believe you are the future of change.
Thank you.
For Africa and the African diaspora. We don't want to hold you up too much.
I got one more question for you before Sekou drives you out.
Sekou's like, I'm done talking to you, Sandra. Go.
I'm playing.
It's just like,
we definitely want to make sure we get everybody.
And also, before you leave, we just also want to make sure you scan the QR code so that you could actually see yourself.
Yeah, of course. I'm like, I didn't know about this, so I'm going to.
Yeah, and then,
I will.
Spread the word for us and give us a shout out.
You guys are doing great work. I'm gonna go look at all your stuff.
Last question.
So you talked about traveling through the continent, along with Nigeria. Were there any parallels that you saw, in some of these other countries that you went to with Nigeria? You mentioned things like infrastructure issues and like some of these challenges that Nigeria has. Were there parallels that you saw? Because then we also know that this free trade, African Free Trade Agreement happened in the last, very recently, and so we're also starting to see, at least from an outside perspective, because I've personally been here, like a Pan-African perspective for like how to make change on the continent, or across the Atlantic. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Right.
Yeah.
So again, I traveled leisurely, right? So it's all my own looking at things for myself. But when I'm not like a beach traveler. Like I like doing the history things and museums and tourism. And like doing all those tours that like give you history about the cities and about the countries. So one particular place that actually stood out to me was Rwanda. I went there a couple of times, actually, not just once. And I mean, they've made, Rwanda is a great story to listen to or to read up on, because they've made so much great progress from a very, very, very terrible time that happened in 1994 with genocide. So, and just being there, just like, this country that is landlocked is able to be self-sufficient in a way. And I know nothing is perfect, no real administration is perfect, but I was very surprised. I was like, even things little things like, you can't have a plastic bag in Rwanda. I was like, that is so great for the environment. How have you been able to achieve this? I was looking for a nylon bag, like a crazy Nigerian person. And they had all these paper, sustainable bags to go to the market and stuff with. And I'm like, oh wow, good for y'all. Wow. That's very good. So that's what I say, little tiny changes and discipline will get us to where we need to be. Another place, that kind of is weird compared to Nigeria is South Africa. When I went to visit my friend, I was like, this is abroad. Yeah. I was like, every time I'd be like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm abroad. I feel like I'm outside Africa. And obviously, that's because, black people there had their struggle, apartheid, and all of that. Yeah. And there's still very much a very big racial divide in South Africa, which is my friend was working in a really large, nice, multinational company, and I stayed in her high-rise apartment, had a cleaner, all of that. But then we'll drive through the townships, and it's a slum, and it's I'm stressed because why is it there's such huge disparity, and it's wow, it's very unsettling, in a way. So I think all throughout Africa, some people are making more progress, some people are making less, but I think the issues are still fundamentally the same, right? So. But okay. It was good. Okay. It was good learning. Well, it's been nice spending this time with y'all.
It's been great.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on our show.
Didn't mean to take over your show. I know I've been here.
What are your plans for after you graduate? Where are you going?
TBD.
TBD.
How about that? TBD. Things are in the works, but I'm available if anybody wants to give me a contract.
Yeah. So enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Alrighty.
Thank you again.
Of course.
Secure.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that name?
That's an interesting name.
Nigeria. What's the last name?
Alagbada.
Alagbada.
All right.
Okay.
This is you're the 20th Nigerian we have on the talk show today. I will have to push back on that a little bit, but I do love my Nigerian people. But go ahead, man. SK, we are very honored to have you on our talk show.
Thank you.
So again, I want you to just again be comfortable, keep it real with us. This is a talk show for us. This is our space. All right, so keep it real. All right, so again, I'm gonna just kick us off, right? So SK, what about what is one thing about the conference today that really resonated with you?
For me,
I'm sorry, SK, if you mind, it's gonna be loud in the background, so if you can get closer to the mic.
Sure. So for me, I consider WABF.
And do you mind if you just project a little bit, brother? Because I know you got that voice in you.
Sure. For me, I consider WABF the only biggest African excellence you can find in the U.S., especially amongst business students. This is actually my second conference. I was at WABF 26. At the time, I was still researching schools. I hadn't really decided, and I was still kind of shopping around to see what's out there. But from then, I made met a lot of really interesting people that we're still friends to date. So this is getting the chance to come in person for the first time as a student. Is something I couldn't pass up. What I find really resonates with me about the conference is just the wealth of knowledge and camaraderie I get from other fellow MBAs across the country. Is something I can't really find just at my own school, but it's just with people I'm comfortable with. So
that's cool, man. That's cool. And what year are you?
I'm a first year at Berkeley Haas.
Oh, first year at Berkeley Haas. Oh, okay. So did you fly out here from
Yes,
West Coast?
I did. I sure did.
Wow. What? Because given that we had COVID in 2020, we're still sort of even in COVID. What was it that gave you the drive and that desire to really fly out here to the Wharton conference this weekend?
Right. So when COVID hit, nobody really saw that coming, right? Yeah. One of the biggest lessons I took away from that is just that life is short, and whenever you get a chance, whenever you get an opportunity, take it. So knock on wood, God forbid, we don't know what's gonna happen next year. So I'm here now. I'm in school. This conference is happening. I'm gonna go for it because we don't know what's gonna happen next year. So,
I like that.
Well, thank you for coming in here, man. You travel a long way, brother.
I know.
I just think this just really just highlight how serious, how big this conference is, right? You come a long way. So, and thank you for sharing your experience with us.
Of course.
So again, what advice will you have for that young kid, that young boy in Africa right now who might be tuning into our show?
Okay, so if there is a young kid in Africa listening and aspiring to do, great things, I feel like there's something unique about us Africans that no matter how achieved we are in the Western world, we're still always very connected to home, right? I feel like I get a feeling in Africa that I don't really get anywhere else in the world. I've traveled a lot, and it's not even about, we have all these problems. We have bad roads. We don't have power. It's not always safe everywhere. But it's something that it's not perfect, but you're still connected to it. And if there's any young African out there that's inspiring, I would say, don't give up. Believe in yourself. You'll always get no's. Take the no, dust yourself up, and move on and try again.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And what did you come to Wharton to study, and what are you looking to? What would you like to do?
So I'm actually at Berkeley Haas.
I'm sorry.
No, it's cool.
You said that.
It's cool.
What did you come to business school to study? And
so before business school, I was a data engineer. So I did mostly engineering work, and I just kind of wanted to pivot away from writing code every day into a more zoomed out fashion where I'm able to manage technology. I am also very, very interested in exploring the VC space in African tech. So business school is definitely giving me all the tools and network and resources I need to be able to do.
Wow, that's powerful. So you have plans to either go back or engage with the Nigeria and the continent.
Correct.
Yeah, powerful.
And then I'm gonna build on Akiz's question. Like, SK, where do you see yourself in the next 5 or 10 years?
In the next 5 years, I see myself operating my own VC fund, focused mostly on early stage African tech. I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, specifically in Yaba, Nigeria, and Yaba has really transformed into like a hub of all the startup activities in Lagos. So I kind of have a little bit of FOMO, and you can't really feel that void. No matter. Right now, I live in the Bay Area. I'm in San Francisco like almost every other day, but it's still not the same. I want our own San Francisco, and Yaba is very promising and has potential to be that.
All right, man, you heard it, man. Keep your eye on SK, man, because these guys gonna make a lot of bread someday, man. All right, you're gonna make a lot of money, but thank you for all you do. Thank you for your contribution.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to see that you will be the face of change for Africa.
Absolutely.
Again, enjoy the rest of the conference. Any last word of your advice? Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. I want to give a very big shout out to the organizers of the conference.
Awesome.
I know how much work it takes to put an event like this together when the world was still a normal place, let alone like when we're in the middle of a pandemic. So, big shout out to the organizers. Thank you so much for putting this together. Thank you so much for, holding the fort and flying the African flag. We really, really, truly appreciate it.
Well, we want to give you a shout out, man. Thank you for being here today.
Of course.
Thank you for traveling so far to be here. It's just really a reflection of your passion for the continent.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, man.
And hope we stay tuned to Pepe Soup Talk and one Jollof.
Absolutely. So again, just connect with us before you leave. Make sure we have your IG and give us a shout out and spread the word.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Hashtag WABF28.
Hey.
Exactly. All right, SK. You look sharp, brother.
Thanks a lot.
Enjoy the night.
Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, first of all, since you came in here with a lot of swag, man, before we dive into the questions, let's talk about the swag that you bring into our show. Right?
Come on,
I'm sorry, man. We might need you to move up a little bit closer to the mic because it's a little bit loud in the background.
Well, bros,
tell us about what you got going on here, man.
First of all, this is royalty, man.
Oh, there you go.
This is Nigeria royalty, bro.
Oh, another Nigerian man on the show. Akiz, man, this is a setup.
I expect nothing less.
It's a setup, man.
Yeah, man. So
go ahead, brother.
So we go with the purple royalty, of course.
Right.
And then we got the traditional choral beats.
Right.
And I'm an Igbo man, right? And so that is the swag.
Okay.
Anywhere we go, we come correct, man. We come correct.
Yeah, I know you come correct, but can you come a little bit closer to the mic this way, bro, so we could hear you?
Of course.
What was your favorite part of the conference this weekend?
Man, so many great parts of the conference, to be honest. I think for me the highlight was definitely the new venture competition, and I think that was the highlight for me because it resonates with my African story. I was born here in the States, born here in Boston, and was schooled here, and graduated from Wharton last year in May. And a lot of the work that I do today is in venture capital. And so that's what brings me back to the continent myself. And so being able to see a lot of these startups making a difference on the continent and me playing a role as a mentor at NBC was fantastic. And so there's a startup in the logistics and trucking space called Truck, TRUQ. And I mentored them, and they ended up winning the conference today.
Excellent.
So they took back the $10,000 prize, which is great.
Wow, man. Well, congratulations.
Thank you, bros. Thank you, bros.
So again, expand a little bit on that. Venture capitalists, you're based in Africa. Tell people exactly what that means.
Yeah,
and what that looks like in Africa.
Yes. So let me introduce myself. I'm AJ Okereke, and I am a partner at Golden Palm Investments. Golden Palm Investments, it's a early stage venture capital fund based in Accra, Ghana. We do investments at the pre-seed and seed stages, and we've invested in some of the most promising businesses on the continent.
Excellent. I love it.
We are early investors in the likes of Flutterwave, Andela, AutoCheck, Soko Watch, M Pharma, and we were guys that took the early bet on Africa. I remember myself and my business partner Sangu Deli. We back in 2016 were like, hey, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in the continent, but nobody else really saw what was happening unless they were there, right?
Right, of course.
And so we placed a few early seed bets, and today two of our businesses are now unicorns. Both were named unicorns this year. Flutterwave raised a Series C round from Tiger Global and Avenir, and then Andela raised a Series D round from SoftBank. And so both of those two companies have really shined a real spotlight on African tech and the African ecosystem. And I guarantee you, by the end of 2022, we'll probably have at least 10 to 15 unicorns on the continent.
And so, like, what's so powerful about the work that you're doing is, you are the guy that actually, like, bring the money to the idea. It makes, like, all these Africans in the continent with a big dream, you make their dream comes true. So that's just powerful. Why do you think that your route of investment money into these guys out there, why do you think that's going to be the change that's going to, like, change Africa from, like, the old narrative?
So I think that the narrative is important, of course, right? Africa Rising. But I think you have to take small steps in order to take large leaps. And I think setting up the proper infrastructure in Africa is very important. And I think as much as all of us want to rely on the public sector, the real innovation is going to happen in the private sector. And so you need the types of innovators and visionaries to have access to capital to be able to build strong businesses, innovative ideas, hire people. Some of the most brightest and hardest working people in the world are on the African continent. All they need is opportunity. And so that is what we've seen. And I think I think for me, having grown up here in the U.S. and see what capital and access to capital can do for a number of individuals, why not have that same sort of presence and same sort of ecosystem in Africa, right? And so we started doing that in 2014 with Golden Palm. And our first investment was into M Pharma and an incredible CEO by the name of Gregory Roxon. And so after an initial bet in him, we wanted to have a multiplicative effect on the continent.
How, because you're also an early stage investor, and so you mentioned how back in the earlier days, let's say when you invested in companies like Andela, like Flutterwave, what was it that, let's say, enabled you and your partners to be able to identify those companies that are now billion-dollar companies? Did you see them becoming billion-dollar companies? Did you, what were you really seeing at that time?
I mean, if we saw that, then we would have put in a lot more. We would have backed up the truck, man. I think for us, what we saw was amazing talent, very, very strong, intelligent people, and we wanted to back those people. So Ian Abayeji, he's one of the co-founders at Flutterwave, and he was also one of the co-founders at Andela. We had first invested in Ian at Flutterwave, right? And Ian at Andela, and we saw all of the great things that he was building. So Andela is a talent network. They're training Africans to become software developers and to place them at companies across the globe, right? Wow. And so by doing that, we're already seeding an ecosystem of strong technologists on the continent. Ian left Andela to then join Flutterwave, and we were just like, hey, we already know this guy, right? This guy's verified. Twitter verified. And we wanted to continue backing strong and talented people like him. And then the ecosystem just started to grow on its own. People would, branch off from Flutterwave or from Andela, and they would start their own businesses. And you just want to continue seeding that strong talent.
So right now you're based in Ghana?
So I am currently based in Boston.
Yeah. But you're sort of invested in folks on
the continent.
Continent, like which particular continent right now?
Right. So we are investing solely in Africa, and the countries are Nigeria, where I'm from, Ghana, where my business partner is from, Kenya, which is one of the most innovative countries in East Africa, and then Egypt. We moved into Egypt this year, and Egypt is just on fire. There's so much amazing talent and just great infrastructure in Egypt that makes it easy for people to innovate.
Excellent. The reason why I asked that question, again, this is going to be a little bit outside of your field. When you're looking into country that you actually want to work with or like invest in, like, what are you looking for those countries to have?
Yeah, I mean...
It's a little bit of political question, but again, it's also about, just like you said, like you definitely evaluate like who qualified, because at the end of the day, business is business, right? Yep. But you also have to look at the country, right? Yep. So let's look at like these countries, what do they need to have in order for you guys to feel confident that this is the best bet to make?
So I think for us, it's we look at a mix of things. I think one of the most important things is the demographics of the region in which we invest. And so we see massive population growth on the continent, 2.5% on a yearly basis, which is double that of the world's population growth. We see that urbanization in sub-Saharan Africa is growing at 50% a year. We see that the middle class is set to triple by 2030. And then we see that life expectancy on the continent is reaching the pension age of 65 by 2030, right? So it's a fast-growing population. It's an increasingly wealthy population. They're urbanizing as a population, and they're living longer.
Got it.
So it makes sense for you to, for you as an investor to place a bet there.
So now, as an investor, as someone who kind of was able to have some very successful early bets, what should people who, whether they're on the continent or in the diaspora, what should they have their eyes on looking forward into the future now? Like, what are you most excited about that's kind of coming that may not even fully be here yet?
So I think one of the most exciting things for me is that the continent is now, there is a strong foundation of talent on the continent. And I think before you invest in any sort of sector that is adjacent or niche, you need a strong fintech payments infrastructure to lay the land and the foundation for strong commerce on the continent, right? And so I'm very excited about the fintech sector in Africa. I think it will continue to boom. There's multiple unicorns in the sector today, and from there, I think it's branching out from fintech, obviously fashion, e-commerce. There's a lot of very interesting things happening on the continent today. So
it's very exciting.
Advice for the diaspora, those who live outside, because sometimes we often talk about this brain drain, right? Some of us come here, we get the education and we stay here. But you are one of those people who are actually taking a huge step to actually be invested in the continent. What can we as a diaspora, those
people
who live outside of the continent, what can we do to really move the needle to get Africa to what it needs to make make the change that Africa deserves?
I think it's a question that everyone struggles with, right? It's how can I give back to the continent that my ancestors, my parents, that I am from? And I think every situation will look different, right? People are going to do what they're comfortable doing, right? And so some people may not be comfortable making that leap immediately, and that's okay. But I think it's important to stay plugged into what is happening and to find ways to either have an impact from a educational knowledge perspective, or to have an impact by actually deploying dollars to the capital, or dollars to the continent. Capital to the continent. And so whether that looks like some sort of syndicate fund, like Golden Palm is a fund that high net worth individuals invest in, or a fund like Ian's fund that he has now, Future Africa, that is a syndicate that's open to really the entire diaspora to put in as large or small checks as they want. And so just finding ways to connect, I think, is probably the first step. And then I think over time, you can identify the right opportunity for you to go and pursue.
Last questions. Again, we always ask you, which country you think has the best jollof rice?
Nigeria, now, come on, man. Come on, man. Next question. Next question.
So we're going to close it out with that. I just wanted to make sure that we close it out with a laughter from you, because, you know, you seem like you well put together. I'm excited for you, brother. Thank you for all you do.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. We don't want to hold you up.
Hey, my man.
All right, man. Again, just check in with us and make sure, like, you know, so this way you're able to access this interview.
Thank you, bro.
All right.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Yep. All right, cool. We good? All right. What's your name, brother? Welcome to the hot seat.
Are you guys tired already?
That's my brother's name.
Oh, really? It must be
So
awesome.
wait, hold on. We have another Nigerian.
Listen, what do you expect?
Toby, I'm gonna get off. I need a break. I can't do this no more.
Why are you gonna do me like that?
I'm not gonna do. Okay.
on,
All
man.
right, you the last
Come
one.
on.
You the last Nigerian. I'm gonna.
I sat down, he said, I'm gonna get up. Damn.
Listen, I love my Nigerian people.
Where you from?
I'm from Guinea, but I consider myself an
probably the only
honorary.
one.
He's an honorary Nigerian.
Yeah, don't make me feel like that. All right, don't victimize me like
Wait,
that.
Guinea-Bissau or Conakry?
Guinea Conakry, but
Nice. See, I know the difference.
of course you do. I love my Nigerian people.
I just wanted
you know.
acknowledgement for that one.
Aki, definitely my brother. I've known him since college.
So are you UPenn or you Wharton?
UPenn.
UPenn,
You know,
okay.
class of 2013.
Oh, okay.
All right. Shout out to class of 2013.
That's 2013.
All right.
Shout out.
Today is Penn homecoming, actually.
Oh, okay.
All right. So let's jump in.
let's
Welcome
do
to the Pepper Soup Talk Show.
Oh, well,
right.
I love pepper soup, so let's
How do you feel right now?
do it. Honestly,
And how do you feel about this moment?
well, tired, but also kind of like excited. I think it's been like it's a culmination of a lot of work. So it's kind of cool to see it all come together, but also see people just having fun. Just see like amazing people interacting and see people just coming, Africa coming together. It's really cool. Like Guinea-Bissau, Nigeria.
Yeah, Nigeria. Yeah, Nigeria.
It was a safe guess. Nigeria. So like it's just the diversity, Francophone Africa, Anglophone Africa coming together. I think it's so great. So,
Right.
yeah.
So are you a Wharton student, or did you come from?
So yeah, I'm a Wharton
Okay.
student. Yeah, so I'm a Wharton class of 2021, but also HKS. So I'm technically graduated from Wharton, but I'm doing HKS.
Yeah.
So this is my third year. I'm actually in Boston right now.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh, wow!
Okay.
A second Boston interview.
So tell us about the work that you do and why you show up at the conference today.
Okay, so one of the reasons I decided to go to the Kennedy School is because I want to run for office someday, and so
What office?
president.
Hey man, we got the president here, man. Hey listen, man, when you get there, don't forget us, man.
No, I definitely won.
All right, you promise?
Yeah,
all right,
sure.
man. All right.
But no, actually, so it's not. So the aspiration is not because it's not narcissism. It's because I used to have a charity that did education work in Nigeria, and I think doing that work made you realize that even if you could reach 1 million kids, it would never be enough. Like even if you had $1 billion to spend, and what you really need is like a systemic way of making sure a kid shouldn't have to get lucky or write a good essay or write a good recommendation or get recommended or something to actually be able to have access to good education. I think very often I'm a capitalist. I mean, I go to the Wharton School, and I think sometimes we always think like private sector is the solution, which it is. But I think the public sector is so devoid of talent. If all the smartest people stay in the private sector, then nothing is going to happen. And I think. Like, have you seen Game of Thrones?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, that's one of my favorite shows.
Okay, so you know that scene where Cersei and Littlefinger were having a conversation, and Littlefinger said information is power.
Yes.
And then Cersei was like, grab him, put a knife to his throat, step back. And then she told him, she was like, power is power.
Yes.
And I think that's the way I like to think about it. Like, yeah, you can be rich, you could influence policy, but unless you're actually in the seat where the final decision is made, that is power. And I think that power you can use in a lot of amazing ways to like influence policy and make sure that when a child wakes up in Nigeria, their zip code doesn't matter to where they get to go to school. Whether they're in Rwanda or they're in Victoria, like whether they're in Kano or in Bayelsa, they get the same access to quality education, they get the same access to opportunities, and they get the same access to dream the dreams that we get to dream because of our privilege.
I gotta tell you, man, these guys are true politicians. I'll tell you what, man. I don't know, man. You ready, brother? You are ready.
And it comes from a very deep place. So I grew up in a very poor family.
Yes.
And I think my saving grace was the fact that one thing my mom never went cheap on was education.
Yeah.
So even when everything was going to shit, even when we didn't have anything to eat, she would pay my school fees. And like when I came to the US, I had only $100 in my pocket.
So when did you come to the US?
2010.
2010, okay.
And every month we would get loans, we would struggle also to pay those school fees. Right? And I realized...
And how old are you now?
Me, I'm 28.
28, okay.
I was 16 years old when I started college. And I realized that the difference between me and the kids I grew up with in Lagos, who are still on the streets hustling right now, they never finished high school. I wasn't smarter than them. I just was lucky to have two parents that were mildly educated but really loved education, and they were not going to let me skimp out on it. Because there are many times I wanted to quit school and go do vulcanizer or go do something, but like they didn't let me. And I think that difference, education helps you break a circle. And I think that difference is very powerful. And I think that background makes me want to get in the ring and make sure kids that grew up the way I did have opportunities that I got lucky to have. But they might not have the same kind of luck, but they shouldn't need to. And I think that's the most important.
And what's your name?
Timmy Tokpa.
Timmy, right?
Yeah, Timmy.
Okay. So Timmy, what you sharing with me really resonated with me on a personal level, or also on a professional level, because I'm in education. And I think the challenges that you sharing and the important, like Nelson Mandela also said, like education is the most powerful thing in the world. So, and it really resonated with me because I noticed, like, whether we in a continent or whether we are in the United States, people of color again being deprived of access. So what you're talking about is access. So I am just so happy to see, like, we have someone like you who really is going to push that agenda. And I do think at the end of the day, it is part of going to be the most fundamental change. Everything starts with education. Everything starts with education.
And you know the most powerful thing about education also is the fact that we can't have the democracy we desire without an educated electorate, right? And the reason it's so easy to influence the population to vote for all those empty politicians is because there's a lack of education in the electorate. And I think people, and there's also like this basic poverty. And I think if we start to break that circle, it also means that we get to make better decisions and more informed choices, and we also get a better, more functioning democracy because educated people are going to stand up and say, no, we're not going to accept that. But we're going to set a better, higher standards for ourselves. And that is also going to help us start breaking this poverty circle we've been stuck in since independence. So I think that part also is very, very important.
I saved my last question because we already know where these guys going.
Oh, that's a fact. But so you said that you like to run when they run for president. What are your plans for after immediately after you graduate?
That's a fantastic question. So right now I'm going to consulting.
Okay.
But I'm also working on a startup. A friend and I were working on a startup that is it's a currency exchange startup. So basically we're trying to do every WhatsApp group we've ever been in, say who has Naira, who has dollar. And instead of doing that on WhatsApp, we're trying to bring that online using AI to connect people that have currency to people who need currency, but also to do balance of payments for businesses. You want to pay your employees in Naira, you want to settle your suppliers in dollars. There's a mismatch in the flow of currency right now because of the central bank. There's a lot of bottlenecks, so we're going to remove those bottlenecks. But currency doesn't cross borders. We're just going to match you to where the need is and where the availability is. So my plan right now is to go to McKinsey, do this startup. If my startup blows up, sure, it's going to be great. If it doesn't, go to McKinsey. And I think my path either looks like being an entrepreneur or starting a private equity fund, focused on Africa, and doing infrastructure development, setting up those special purpose vehicles that we need to actually invest in those things that we really, because government cannot do it. The budget of the Nigerian federal government is $30 billion. That is less than the budget of the state of Indiana, right? And that's a state of how many people? In a country of 200 million people. And we have an infrastructure gap that is over $1 trillion. So the private sector has to step in there. And I think we need entrepreneurs like ourselves and Africans like ourselves with this knowledge and with this fundraising base to say, I'm going to underwrite the risk. I'm going to give you the local knowledge and I'm going to find the place of the most impact where you can actually deploy these funds separate from the government, but also help. It's not charity. We want to make money. We want to be rich. But we also want, in the process, we want to lift our brothers up. And I think that's also very important.
I'm sorry that I have to cut short because we also want to make sure you enjoy yourself at the conference. So thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
Before you leave, make sure that you connect with us. We have a QR code so that this way you're able to access this interview.
Yes,
thank you for your impact. Thank you for your wisdom.
It was nice.
We're excited for you. This is not the last time we're gonna see you.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So we got with us Ian from Jamaica, and we're here back on the Pepper Soup Talk Show, One Jollof, here at the Sheraton, University City. So welcome, Ian.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So Ian, how are you enjoying the conference so far?
Yeah, so it's been great. I'm a second year here at Wharton.
Okay.
This conference is something that I always look forward to when I was coming to school here, like looking to come to Wharton. Unfortunately, they didn't have it last year because of COVID, so I'm glad they were able to have it this year. I've been impressed by the quality of the speakers that they've had.
Yeah.
And I'm not from Africa. I'm from Jamaica in the Caribbean, so I've just been learning a lot. A lot more about Africa, the continent, and what's going on right now.
But with any particular panels or talks that you enjoyed most?
Believe it or not, I enjoyed the new venture competition, pitch competition the most. I was impressed that they're able to have so many companies pitch, local companies in Africa pitch virtually. To see the different types of businesses that they're doing. Very impressive. I think they mentioned they reviewed like 300 applications.
Oh wow!
And we got to see the 5 best today, and it was very entertaining.
And did you directly come to Wharton from Jamaica, or are you living somewhere else in the States?
Yeah, so I came to the U.S. for undergrad. Okay. And so I've been here ever since. So before Wharton, I was in New York working in banking for 5 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And
Okay. Cool. Toby, I don't want to. I'm hogging the mic from him right now. So.
Can you just tell us a little bit of more of your overall experience, just schooling and working here, and how Wharton has helped open some more opportunities or different things you didn't know before?
Yeah, so the thing I would say is, I applied to many business schools, I got accepted to many, and I know it would sound biased, but I still think that Wharton is the best business school out there. And I mean, one reason for that is, just because of its sheer size. I'm a second year, there's 800 people in my class. I keep meeting new people almost every day. Because there's so many people, and because of the size, I think because it's so big, they're able to have conferences like this Africa Business Conference, and conferences about much more other stuff as well. And you have that scale in terms of the size and in terms of the the caliber of people with different interests. And I get to just consume it as on a Friday and Saturday afternoon. So.
True. What are your plans for after you graduate from Wharton?
Yeah, so my goal right now, ideally I'd love to work at the IFC.
Okay.
In an investor role. Of course they do a lot of work in emerging markets like the Caribbean, Latin America, and even like this conference, I'm getting a lot of context that I need for roles like that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we want to thank you for being on our show. We'll let you get back to enjoying your night. I saw you had like a nice little one.
Yeah, have a drink. The music is good, and I'm glad you guys are here.
So hope you have a great rest of your night.
Wonderful. Thanks.
So, Miriam, thank you for being with us. We are currently live on YouTube. And this is the Pepper Soup Talk Show.
Okay.
So we bring movers and shakers in African diaspora, like you, on the show to talk about some of your experiences. So first of all, how did you enjoy the conference?
How did I?
How did you enjoy the conference?
I really loved it. Unfortunately, I was only able to attend today, but I just loved it. I loved hearing from very powerful women in Africa and inspiring leaders. And I just loved seeing all so many people really interested in Africa in the same room. I just felt like that's extremely powerful, and it just makes me happy.
Was there a particular panel that you liked most?
I think something I really enjoyed was a panel on what was the topic? So it was, I think, something related to like female empowerment, essentially in Africa. So we had 4 or 5 panelists who are successful women on the continent, and they were just telling us about the struggles they had, how they were able to navigate through that, and just gave us, some pieces of advice as we embark on on the new steps of our career. Yeah.
And where are you from?
So I'm from West Africa, Mali.
Mali.
Yeah.
West African representation.
Yeah.
That's cool. So both of us are from Nigeria.
Okay.
I've got Mali here. So did you grow up there or here?
I grew up there.
You grew up there?
Yeah.
When did you come to the States?
So I grew up there. I did my undergrad and a master's in France, and then I moved to the US in 2016. So I've been here almost 5 years.
Okay.
Actually, a little bit more than 5 years. Yeah.
And then you came to Wharton.
Yeah. So I've been here 5 years, worked in 2 different cities, and just came to Wharton last year.
So I gotta ask you a question. What's been your favorite experience living in West Africa, Mali, living in Europe, like France, or living in the US?
Definitely living in Africa.
Okay.
Not even living in Mali, but also traveling in West Africa, like going to Côte d'Ivoire, going to Ghana, for example.
Yeah.
So I just felt like that's where I'm from. I know that's where I want to go back to.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that's my home. So all my experiences there are just so much, not better than what I have here, but that's home, right? So it always, you will always have a special meaning for me. So yeah, definitely African experiences.
That's cool. And
you got so many distractions. I try to focus. I ain't good at it. So with the experience at Wharton, what's some skills you want to, catch up on? Are you planning on using them here or back in your home country, or what's your vision?
So I want to do a mix of both. I'm currently hoping to major in finance because I want to work in private equity. Okay. So hopefully I can land a job here right after the MBA, and I hope that 2 or 3 years later I can go back to Africa with those investor skill sets and then help develop the private equity landscape in Africa. I would say specifically in West Africa, in Francophone West Africa. Yeah.
And private equity, is it broken down into any specific categories they can do with it, or?
So sometimes people talk about different growth stages. They can include in private equity venture capital, and in growth equity, and in private equity when you're talking about firms that are more stable and larger. And I guess that's where I want to focus on. I feel like there's starting to be lots of momentum in Africa regarding venture capital for startups, but I'm really interested in companies that are already established who maybe want to take the next step but don't have the capital, don't have the right resources, or just don't have maybe the skill sets to take their companies to the next level, and that's really where I want to help.
And with that, is there any specific industry that you want to work with? Maybe tech, industrials? Or...
So I'm really industry agnostic.
Okay.
So I feel like if I find an investment fund that if I find a fund that has an interesting investing strategy, regardless of the industry, just knowing that they'll really help those companies achieve their goals is what's going to drive me. So really, the industry doesn't matter that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, ma'am, we don't want to take up too much of your night. We want you to get back to the festivities. Thank you for being with us on our show.
Absolutely.
Please stay tuned. This is Pepper Soup Talk. You can find us on YouTube and across social media. Thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Appreciate it.
Enjoy your evening.
You too.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
I feel good. Love the attire.
Thank you.
You came very fresh and royal.
Yes.
So now, introduce yourself.
Yes.
What is your name and what's background?
Yeah, so my name is Safir Esmail. I'm from Kinshasa, from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm a second-year MBA student at the Wharton School and the Lauder Institute, getting my master's in international studies. Really big on Africa, venture capital. Been in that space for the last 18 months, and very bullish about what's about to happen over the next 10 years.
That's powerful. That's powerful. What was your favorite part of the conference this weekend?
Yeah, my favorite part of the conference was just kind of networking with people, seeing seeing familiar faces. I've come to the WABF conference for the last 5 years, so just catching up with people, seeing people coming from out of town, also like greeting people that I haven't met before, and just welcoming them here in the Wharton community, because we're such a tight-knit community, so just very happy to just welcome everybody.
Now as a frequent goer to the concert, you just said that you've been going the last 5 years. We know that this year is a little bit different given the pandemic. How was this conference? How would you say, like, was there anything that made this conference maybe more special in a way that others weren't, given the kind of creativity that had to go into making it happen?
Given the virtual format, I think like it was easier to bring people from out of town, and like people that wouldn't have necessarily like made it here. So it was good to kind of hear different perspectives, and also like just like expanding like the breadth of like participants, right? Because we did have a hybrid conference, so like there were people physically here, but there were people that were also able to like branch out outside of Philadelphia and were able to like tune in as well, and benefit from the knowledge.
Definitely. That's cool.
Oh yeah. So what's some of the takeaways once you completed your degree? You want to apply maybe here or back at home after graduation?
Yeah, it's very much like I said, I've been coming here for the last 5 years, even when I was a prospective student. It's just kind of like re-emphasizing, the ambition to go back home as soon as possible and ready to make a change, versus kind of like staying here and having that safety net. But every time I come to this conference, I'm very ambitious and very like just motivated to go back and to make a change, and it's only like validating that, and especially as now as a second year, as I'm trying to look for my next move, it's only validating the fact that I need to go back on the continent.
And just random, do Congo, do they make jollof also? Enlighten me if I don't know.
We don't jollof is not a thing in our food, but I will say Nigerian jollof is the best jollof.
Oh, thank you, appreciate it.
That's all I'll say.
That's a good answer to choose. Two Nigerians on the table. That's cool. So now in the VC space, right? Tell us a little bit about VC in Congo. Is there like a scene there?
Yeah, so surprisingly, like, I mean, the scene is very small compared to like Nigeria, and Kenya, and Egypt and South Africa, but it's actually still there. Like, when you look at these maps of like the top 10 countries, like Congo is always there. There's certain deals. There's a small startup like ecosystem. But what I will say, like, it's there. The money is there. What I really want to help out is to like create an angel network. So actually yesterday and the day before was the VC for Africa Early Stage Investment Summit. And one of the things that was actually mentioned is somebody's trying to like create a Congo like angel network. And I think if we have more of that, that's going to help facilitate like the startup ecosystem in Congo. Because there's a lot of potential. Like, we have close to 100 million people. So like similar dynamics to like Egypt. So like there's a lot of opportunity there. So like it's just nascent. You just need to have the right conditions to really like empower that for sure.
Can you highlight that a little bit so we understand more of the American ecosystem for VC, and then let's say for the Nigerian ecosystem, there's a different mentality or hurdles people don't know. I think the terminology is for in startups is like just people who don't want other startups to do well. So what's kind of hurdles that will kind of not help this kind of idea go through?
Yeah, I think like at the end of the day, like especially specifically about Congo, is education, right? So in Nigeria, people are familiar with startups, right? So that's why like even Nigeria compared to like Kenya, there's an angel network, right? There's an early stage funding pool of people who have money that understand the opportunities of VC and like startup ecosystem that we don't have in Congo. In Congo, we have people who have money, but they just don't understand that aspect. So it takes somebody to kind of like explain to them and like kind of like understand, like helping them understand that there's benefit into like pouring into the angel network. The second thing is like education. So facilitating like accelerators or having programs to help these young populations to be able to learn coding or learn all these different skills to be able to like create startups and to enable that aspect. The money is there, it's just not going to the right places right now.
And as you're talking about it, I could tell the passion you have for really making it happen back home. And Safir, we're excited to see you really like make an impact and like really trailblaze in BC and especially in Congo as well. And we don't want to take up too much of your time. You're enjoying the festivities, but thank you for being on our show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
For people who are straddling the multiple worlds, as a lot of us are here, and as you're going through that process yourself, what are just some words of advice that you have for people who are thinking about maybe going back home, or thinking about how maybe staying here but still want to contribute to like developments there?
Yeah, I would say really stay true to your values, your goals, your ambitions, and it's very easy to kind of stay here for a little bit. But for me especially, it's all about taking risks. I have a friend, he's always said we're the youngest we're ever going to be. So it's all about really taking the risk now and really making the most out of it. And just go. If things fail, things fail. But it's all even failing is a learning experience. But it's about taking that initiative to really go and put yourself out there to really make an impact. And if you really are passionate about that, you should make an impact.
Most definitely. And so now, what's your name? Sydney. Sydney.
Oh, there's no N.
Lesedi.
Yes.
Okay. Lesedi, welcome to the Pepper Soup Talk Show.
Thank you.
You are a participant in the Wharton Conference this weekend?
I'm actually a board member.
You're on the board?
I am on the board.
Oh, so you're one of the organizers for this conference. So tell us about putting this together with all the constraints of COVID and restrictions, because you guys made it happen.
Yeah, so I was particularly involved in entertainment.
Okay.
So parties, that was me. I think I found out about this, my friend was telling me about there's a conference that's talking about investment in Africa, and I was like, this is great, I would love to help any way that I can. And entertainment sounded like my thing because I just love throwing good parties. Yeah. And so I think the biggest challenge is at first we had a lot of really good ideas, but then because of COVID,
I'm sorry, just make sure you're talking to the mic.
I'm so sorry. We had a lot of really good ideas at the beginning. At the beginning, you're just throwing ideas around, and then I guess as you refine the process, you just kind of do and undo a lot of ideas. And so I think there was venues. We could have some venues wanted mass only, and we wanted a massive party if people were vaccinated. And then there was figuring out how we're gonna make it remote but engaging, because it's a hybrid model that we've been running. And so I think there were those constraints to work with. I think we did a pretty good job. I think finding a way to mesh the hybrid model was the biggest difficulty, especially for entertainment.
So now, how was that? Because yesterday was a social event at night, right?
Yes.
How did the event go? And did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy the event. So what happened was we rented out a club, and then the club would check IDs, and then all our participants are vaccinated. We check that upon when you sign up, and so we have that down. So when we were booking the club, they had a policy either all masked or all vaccinated, and then we went all vaccinated. So that was our process of booking the club. They did give us a cap on the amount of people that we can bring in. Yeah. It was about 200, and it worked out wonderful. Okay. So
that's beautiful.
Oh yeah. Hey, how you doing, man? It was good. So real quick, what's one of your favorite things from the conference so far?
Today was a really good day, and it was the panels. I went to an entrepreneurship panel, and there was this woman, her name is Simone, and I feel like she was this, normally when you hear entrepreneurs talk, they give you the really, really gritty version of it, where it's either over glamorized and it's entrepreneurship pays off, if you just keep working hard, your business will work out, or the other extreme where it's long sleepless nights and you might never make it. But she was just kind of human about it. This is something that you're really interested in. If it's something that you love, understand that there will be days where you will be your friends will make partner of their firms and you think I could have done that. But just stay focused, stay on the dream. And I think I just loved how human her advice was. It wasn't, you don't have to be some super disciplined person just to resonate with her advice. True. So I love that.
And does that resonate with any plans you have after graduation?
Yes, so I'm an undergrad in engineering. And I remember when I applied to Penn, I kind of told them that I want to build a smart city in Botswana, which I really do want to do. And
you want to build
a smart city?
You want to build a smart city?
I do.
Tell us more.
Huge dream. Basically, it's the idea to use technology and implement it in like a wide urban setting, and use technology to make the city more sustainable, to improve the quality of life of the citizens. Massive dream. Yeah. And so for me, the idea was computer engineering was the part that I needed a degree for the most, which is why I chose my major. Yeah. And so when I was thinking about entrepreneurship, I was thinking about all the small ways that I could make the smart city start to happen. Like all the technology that I could bring to Botswana. And so that really resonated with me because they were giving me on-the-ground advice that I could use to start materializing my dreams. So that's what I really liked. And just places to look, places to network, things to think about. So it kind of really resonated with me because it's like startup advice.
Wow. That's very powerful. And what year are you at Penn Engineering? Sophomore. And already know you want to build a smart city. That is
yeah, I think it's like
very impressive.
I don't know. It's weird because like at first when I thought I moved here, I might get taken up by like big companies and like that life. But I just feel like I have this strong calling to go home and just improve Botswana. Like it just really sits with me. I can't give it up. I tried, but it's not going anywhere. It pays better to work here, but I can't give it up.
Well, that's very inspiring. Let's say, have you been back to Botswana?
No, I actually moved here in like March, so I haven't been here that long because of COVID.
Gotcha. Wow.
I had like visa issues. So.
Wow. Okay. Oh, so were you in school remotely?
Yeah, it was remote first.
Wow.
So it hasn't even been a year, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, with that, so with everything you learned today, do you think you'll do an MBA here also?
They actually convinced me.
Oh, really?
At first I was wondering what's the point of a business education, but then I'm hearing the terminology thrown around and like the fine details that go into like kind of running and managing a business, and they convinced me that I might actually want to do an MBA, which is crazy because I never thought I'd consider it.
Yeah, I said it's getting it's starting to get louder from the back. So we just want to make sure that you're talking to the mic.
Am I good?
You're good.
Then that being said, I did the same thing. I did mechanical. I think I mentioned it undergrad, and then I did my grad in entrepreneurship instead of an MBA because it's more of a real experience. Depending on the place, but I do say it does fill a lot of gaps I didn't know before. Just in my experience, it might be worth it. Not trying to convince you again, but you know, it's a good skill set.
No, I think today I think it's like when you don't know how much you don't know until you kind of get a taste of the information that you could access. And I think that's what today was, just hearing business professionals or just MBA students speak about their business experiences. There's like this whole field that I'm very unfamiliar with. And so I'd like to probably tap into it and then get an MBA because I feel like you don't want to go into it raw. But I think like they've really convinced me that there's so much to learn about business and different sectors. Like it's not just one huge umbrella.
Gotcha. And what exactly inspired you to do a smart city compared to everything else? There's a lot of innovation out there, but why specifically a smart city?
I think it started with this idea of utopia. So I incidentally am a daydreamer, so like I often go off into La La Land and I'm always thinking about utopias and stuff. And I was thinking about the suffering in Botswana, just like general human suffering. And I just kind of wonder, is there a way for technology to fix it? I'm obviously very conscious of the fact that you can't just throw a technological solution at like a huge complex social problem. But there are ways that technology can be used to kind of rectify and help improve the quality of lives of people. And then I came up with this like huge this large scale model. And I was like, this could be something. So like you just kind of come in small ways and then a city emerges from that. And that's how it came about.
Well, like I said, we don't want to take up too much of your time. We want you to enjoy the festivities.
All right.
Thank you for being on our show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Make sure to stay tuned to what we got going with Pepper Soup Talk. One Jollof Pepper Soup Talk. And we've got Ahmed in the building. Ahmed, how are you feeling?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
Doing good.
I know it's been a busy day for you.
It's been a very busy day. There's a lot of African excellence that we're seeing around here.
Definitely.
What are your thoughts seeing all these people, different cultures, and a lot of Wharton students, but also people from Philly, people flew in different parts of the world.
Yeah, so this is actually like my third one.
Okay.
It's my third one, but I can always say like every year that I do come, it's been like it gets better. I'm not in Wharton. I didn't go to Penn.
Yeah.
I went to Penn State, the real Penn. But just coming down.
Don't say that too loudly. Might be fighting words.
You're behind enemy territory.
Right. So I come from like the healthcare background, and I always come just to get a business aspect of like what's going on in Africa. And I'm around some very intelligent people, and the alumni base is very well-rounded. They know what they're talking about. So I've really been enjoying it so far.
That's cool. Well, were you at the conference?
I was.
You were at the What was your favorite panel session?
I can honestly say the China and Africa panel. Yeah, because
make sure to talk into the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I can honestly say the China and Africa panel is my favorite panel. Because there's a lot of Chinese influence in Africa right now. And there's really a debate on whether it's positive or negative. So we had two aspects. We had people who actually worked with Chinese partners. And then we had one guy who's actually Chinese that did some work in Africa. And one point that he really brought up was that prior to the Chinese influence in Africa, there was limited resources, and there's this talk of like trying to do away with the Chinese influence. But he asked a very important question, like how? Like, would there be enough resources outside of China for business to go forward?
And this is the Chinese man's perspective?
It's from his perspective of doing work in Africa.
Yeah, it's interesting that the China-Africa conversation, because when you think about let's say like the U.S. influence in Africa versus Chinese influence in Africa, it's like completely different.
Right.
China's like a lot more like private investment, whereas like U.S. is a lot more, quote unquote humanitarian, if you want to say that. But if you look at what's gonna make create like progress, a lot of the times it's like like the building the economy,
right. And that was the biggest debate. It was private sector in Africa versus government to government relations, which is going on now. It's basically like the Chinese government with African governments. But another important interesting topic that was brought up was that there's so much talent in Africa, like young Africans who are abroad that have the ability to go back, and we're getting resources to go back. And really, the key points was like for Africa to really grow, it's going to come from the private sector, and it's going to come from actual Africans, because we care the most about Africa. I mean.